the cloud. All right. So here we are talking on a Monday night about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu week 4 of lockdown. Gosh, it's just flying by, really. It's it feels like it's only just begun. So this week was all about the side mount, also known as the technical mount, also known as the modified mount. And what we talked about was a match, very straightforward match, of which some of it was used, some of it used well, and then led to the armbar that we saw before. So just want to start before we kind of break it down a little bit and sort of throw around to everyone. And well, firstly, did you guys get a chance to have a look at it? And what are your thoughts? What sort of came out from what you saw?
I had a look at it at lunch. That was good.
Yeah. Side mount, is it something that Greg, Dane, you guys are familiar with or you've done before?
Yeah, it is. So I watched the videos and I thought they were useful. My first thought was, my first question was, is S mount the same as technical mount, the same as modified mount, the same as side mount?
Really good question. Really good question. And I'm really glad you asked it. And I mentioned it very briefly. So the one thing that a few things that I got out of doing this session, and one of them is that I thought I knew my mounts until I put together this video, and I did not know my mounts. So really good question. So there's a difference between side control and side mount, and hopefully that's clear. And I'll ask Greg in a minute just to make sure that is clear. And then you've got your 3 with regards to the side mount, the technical mount, and the modified mount. And from everything that I can read, those 3 are exactly the same. There's no difference between side mount, technical mount, and modified mount. It's just a figure of speech. It's just a name. S mount is different. So, and I fell into this rabbit hole right towards the end when I was putting all my videos together. Someone mentioned S mount. In fact, the very last video that I showed, the one that I recommended is probably the best one to explain side mount. He says not to be confused with S mount. And to be quite honest with you, I was like, what is S mount? You know what I mean? So I was Googling, I was YouTubing, and I was like, right, S mount. So essentially, without going to a video and just searching in front of you guys, I would describe S mount is essentially the mount that you establish when you're going for that very controlled arm bar from the mount. You know how you slide a leg up to lock that shoulder away from an arm bar from the mount, and then you change your leg so you almost look like one leg kind of cocks out to the right, one leg kind of turns to the side, and then you're leading into the arm bar. Well, that is the S mount in essence, except without the arm there. You're just getting to that mount position, it's very high, and then you're switching over your legs to almost getting into the arm bar position to that S mount. I don't know a great deal about S mount. In fact, I could probably do another video like this on S mount in the future if I come across a match that has it. But the difference is that side, you don't have that side. Side mount is propping that opponent up. I like to think of it in between those 2 bookends, whereas S mount, the opponent is still flat on their back, but you've turned onto your side up at the top half of the body. So yeah, there is a pretty big difference once I started looking into it. But 2 days ago, I was exactly like you. He said S mount. I was like, what's an S mount? So I thought I knew my mounts, but I did not.
I think that's a good way of differentiating between the 2, which is kind of the bookend. So they're kind of propped up on their side on the shoulder, and your kind of legs are forming sort of bookends, which I think is, like you've said,
yeah, definitely
the S mount, versus the other one, which is kind of a foot over there, sort of across their waist, and a heel in their hip, and then with the other leg, it's sort of running diagonal, sort of up their back with the knee sort of behind the head.
So other way around. So that what you just described is the technical mount, yeah, and that's the bookend.
Yes.
That you're holding them on their side with your leg, with your knee on one side and your foot on the other side, yeah. And then the S mount, they're flat on their back with the S mount.
Oh, right, okay.
S mount, they're still flat on their back, but you have changed your legs to a different angle whilst you're on top of them.
I think it's something in the white belt syllabus, which is that you sort of start in mount, and they basically sort of, your opponent tries to buck you off and are unable to do so, so they end up rolling onto their side, and then you go from mount into into side mount.
Side mount. Yeah. Side mount. Yeah. They roll to their side. Yeah.
Into the side mount, and then from there they roll onto their stomach, and then you put your hooks in and kind of take the back, and that's sort of one of the things that we drill in the white belt syllabus.
Yep.
But I've only ever used side mount, or like I've ended up in mount and they've got their elbows tucked in, and I've looked for underhooks and I'm unable to get those underhooks because their elbows are tucked in. I'm unable to tease their elbows away from their body so that I can get underhooks. So I might fake a Kimura, like you've kind of indicated in the videos.
Yep.
And they'll roll, and then basically once I'm in side control,
side mount.
Side mount. Then I'll go looking for that half Nelson choke with the gi, which is probably the limit of my probably sort of submissions from side mount, other than an armbar. Throw the leg on the top of an armbar. So it's really just a half Nelson or an armbar, but
that's where you're working with. So as I said in the video, the side mount, the irony is the side mount is my go-to position that I get all my submissions from. So side mount armbar is my favorite. Side mount half Nelson choke, side mount going to bow and arrow choke, side mount going into the step over Kimura. Side mount is like my go-to for all my submissions. And the second thing that came out to me, going through all the video stuff is, however, I've never worked on side mount in itself. You know what I mean? It's always been the position that I just happen to flow through when they turn to their side. I go, okay, I'm now going from mount to the Kimura, or going from mount to the armbar. I've never focused on it as a position itself. And, after seeing some of the videos, you just described one then. He called it the bulldozer drill, where you just sit on mount and then they roll, then you go to side mount, then they roll, then you go to back mount, then they roll, then you go to side mount, and you just practice transitioning and floating on top of them. Yeah, I've never really practiced that before, but I think it speaks to my game. Very, very comfortable with submitting from that side mount position. Not very comfortable submitting from the mount, not very comfortable submitting from the back, or as comfortable. So I'll always do that side mount position. And that's the third thing I took away from the video is I want to be the kind of guy that it doesn't matter what happens. I can go the mount, I can go the side mount, I can go the back. I've got my repertoire that I can attack from all those positions, which I'm not there yet. I've got 100% confident in a side mount. And then basically, if I get the mount, I'm trying to get you back to side mount. And if I get the back, I'm just going wild and just trying to go for it, knowing I'm probably going to lose it.
So you feel like you're in the better position when you're in side mount versus regular mount. Definitely.
First submissions, absolutely. Yeah, I'm much more comfortable submitting from side mount than actual mount itself.
I think probably, especially when you sort of like at the sort of white belt stage, you kind of come to treat mount as the pinnacle, or the most kind of dominant of the kind of like in the kind of the pyramid. But yeah, I guess once you sort of get a good handle on side control and submissions from side control, or back takes from side control, then it may not necessarily be the most dominant for some people.
I think the reason that I'm so comfortable with it is because I think it's easier to submit from side control, because I think it's from side mount, because I think it's a lot more forgiving than a mount. You know what I mean? So the very first, and the reason that thought sort of pops in my mind is two of the videos I showed was Hodger Gracie and Damian Meyer, and they sort of highlighted to me that they use the side mount to get back to mount, because they're very high level guys, and they want to submit from mount, or they want to submit from the back because they're masters of what they do. The very first armbar you learn, or that I learned from mount, is a very, very, very difficult armbar to do. Ironically, it's the first one they teach you, but it's the hardest one to do. And there's so much room for error. Now, an armbar from that side mount, there's not nearly as much room for error. So of course, I think now that I think about it now, there's so much less room for error from the side mount, which is why I'm so comfortable at it. But again, when we're talking about improving your game, once you're good at something, okay, cool, you need to move on and start getting better at the things you're not good at. So, I'm now challenging myself and I've been doing it for really, honestly, I've probably been doing it for the last 2 years, is like stop submitting people from side mount, because I know I can now do it from other positions that I know I'm terrible at. And I think now that I think about why was I comfortable in side mount, I think there's a lot more room for error in the mount and in the back for them to escape and to lose that dominant position. But you're right.
Yeah.
And I really think as a white belt, when you're starting off, you should be trying to get the mount, and you should be trying to get that the back mount position. They're the most points in competition for a reason, because they offer you the most control over your opponent. And whether you're doing it for competition, whether you're doing it to learn a martial art, whether you're doing it for self-defense, I still think in all three areas that they're still the better position, because you have the most control over your opponent. You just need to learn how to control your opponent without just using strength and weight. But yeah, no, that was an interesting thought. Thanks for going there, Dane.
That's all right. Keep saying side control, and obviously I'm meaning
The side mount. Yeah.
The other question I have, which might be something you want to leave till later or address it now, is so recognizing that there's plenty of submission options from side mount.
Yep.
And options at the back from side mount.
Mm-hmm. I love how you have to just have a quick think.
I need like a post-it on the corner of the screen.
Don't say side control.
Yeah. Obviously, a Kimura from mount is one way of triggering or prompting your opponent to turn onto their side. I'm curious what some other, because that Kimura where you're basically sort of straight arming and putting pressure on the hand, it's kind of very natural to kind of prompt that response, which is a sort of a turn to the side. So I'm wondering what other kind of prompts or triggers from mount
to get them there.
It might sort of trigger that sort of that reaction.
Yeah, well, one of the videos that I showed, instead of push, and you're right, so that exactly what you described, that's 100% my game. I go straight arm, sometimes 2-on-1 to overpower that one arm, get their Kimura. 9 times out of 10, they're going to turn, and then I start playing my side mount game. So that's me 101. One of the videos that I found was very interesting. So that's the arm you're Kimuraing, right? One of the videos was, instead of pushing that arm down, they were pulling that arm up to get the same effect. If that makes sense. So if you did that, I'd turn that way. Instead, they were pulling that arm up towards them to kind of get the same reaction. I've never tried that I can remember. I'm not sure if it'll work. I did comment in the video, I wasn't a big fan of the video, but I just thought it was an interesting thought. That could be one way. And another way that I could think of, and again, if I think about how I do it, 9 times out of 10, I'm doing what you're saying, but you could also maybe try to get some sort of gift wrap with the other arm, or some sort of passing over the collar, and then you're reaching under the neck and re-grabbing that collar to try to turn them in that direction as well, because they're going to feel that choke come on, and they're going to want to relieve the pressure by turning away from where that choke is happening as well, in the direction of their gi. So
what you're talking about is basically like a sort of a going sort of flat on them, almost kind of sort of face to face, or going quite sort of low. And reaching underneath behind their neck, and they're probably sort of going to be doing this sort of action.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're kind of reaching around behind their neck and grabbing a hand, and then then sort of as you pull it back, it's kind of unraveling their body in a particular direction and bring them up on their shoulder. Yeah?
That could work as well. Right. That could work as well. Yeah.
Interesting.
From mount as well, to get them to turn, you could potentially try to threaten the head arm triangle. That could work as well. So if you're Kimuraing that arm to make you want to turn that direction, you could almost cross this arm over that direction, and then you're sort of threatening the head arm. What they're going to want to do is continue with that motion, so that you're not locking in that arm towards the neck, and that could cause them to turn as well. But that being said, these are all, I think at your blue belt, your purple belt and beyond. So everything that we're talking about, that's white belt 101. You know what I mean? That's what you should be doing as a white belt, is forcing your opponent to move, and you're thinking that next step ahead. I'm pushing that Kimura down so they move to their side. I'm trying to get the head arm triangle so they move to their side. I think where you're at with regards to blue and purple belt is you got to have that already mastered. Action, reaction. And now it's about reaction, then action, as in, okay, what's my opponent doing? How am I going to get to that position? I think that's what the video highlighted. There's forcing your opponent to move, but then there's waiting for your opponent to move and reacting to it. And I think I made that comment in the video. One of the instructors is like, this is a very reactive mount, because you're waiting. Your opponent is either trying to escape, they're trying to get that quarter guard, and then you're reacting to it as well. Now I say that like that's not my game at all. You know what I mean? That I'm very much trying to push people. Could be because I'm bigger, but I'm trying to push people into that position the whole time. So yeah, but those are some options I think of how to get people into that side mount position. You right, Angus? You can come past if you want. I think he's busting for the toilet. Yeah. All right. Any Greg, do you have any questions or anything about the videos, mate? Have you done now? I'm going to say, have you done side mount before? Feel free to say no, because if someone had asked me if I'd done it before, I probably wouldn't know the name of it. I'm not very good at the technical names and stuff like that, but is it something that you were familiar with at all?
It actually did look familiar.
Good.
So yes, there is a distinct difference between side control and side mount, and I'm happy with that. That makes perfect sense. And your comments actually in the video about how you often train the entry and the exit point, but the side mount piece is kind of being trained as a bridging unit. Also made sense. It was a few months ago, probably actually on a Wednesday with Tristan. I'm sure that we've done the side mount as part of set up for bow and arrow choke or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, when I saw the guy going for that in your video, I thought that's what was coming. I didn't think he was going to try and do a full force arm bar. Yeah. And just try and wrench it out. I mean, they were big guys. That would have taken quite a lot of force. And I don't think I would have seen or tried to do that. I would have probably gone for one of the choke type submissions. Yeah, no, and yeah, that's why I really enjoyed that last video that I showed of the two purple belts instructing. At first I was a bit dubious, but I just really like the patience that they applied to just discussing this side mount. More patience than I have during a lesson, because I'm like, people want the sexy stuff, you know what I mean? But the sexy stuff looks cool and feels great, but it doesn't make you better at jiu-jitsu. It just teaches you funny tricks. What makes you better is just practicing going from mount to side mount and all that sorts of stuff. I really enjoyed the start of the videos, because the first question I asked myself is, why do we do this technique, right? And then just those real subtle, well, if you just try to hold a mount when someone's rolling onto their side, you lose the mount in essence. And I know, I mean, there's so many times where it still happens to me now that someone spins fast and I've just lost the mount completely, or they've captured, I get a mount and then they just push my knee down and capture my leg into a half guard. I'm like, okay, I've lost this position I've worked so hard for. So I think those were some of the fundamentals as well. But it's good that you know the difference between that side control and side mount. And you're 100% right. The Tristan, last time I was in Canberra, and I distinctly remember this lesson, he was teaching us how to go from a mount, a side mount, and then to a back take. And he was using the chair sit, which Dane, again, they said chair sit in the video, and it was like they said S mount. I was like, okay, chair sit. I better make sure I know what this is. And that's another option. And that's pretty much from the side mount. It can be done from other positions, but it is possible from the side mount. And that's how to go into the back take. And Tristan uses the catchwords, you know, pull them up the boat ramp, which means slide them across your legs and then roll them into that back control position. So yeah, a lot of lessons sort of intertwined with this side mount, this technical mount thing. And I think it is, you know, first lesson people come in, the first handful of lessons is all about learning what the mount is, learning about holding the mount. The second lesson is learning what the guard is, learning how to pass the guard. I always then try to bridge those two lessons with regards to basic drill. Here's a guard, here's a passing guard, here's how you get mount, here's how you escape the mount, so that you can practice your own basic drill. And now that I'm thinking about it, and this is, you know, mainly for you, Dane, I think that the third step now is this side mount. Okay, you got this mount, now they're trying to escape it. What do? You do this side mount, and teaching these various types of mount. And then the fourth one would probably be like knee ride, because to me, it's all starting to make sense now. They're not just sort of bespoke positions that exist for no reason. You can kind of train them together and understand how they link to each other. And that's why I love these videos. It's forcing me to slow my game down,
go back, research, and sort of almost restructure how I think about how I roll and how kind of jiu-jitsu comes together. So that's why I love these white belt videos, because they're just guys just doing basic stuff, sometimes really well, sometimes really poorly, and just generate this really good fun foundational conversation.
That struck me actually with the video. Like as you said, the guy who eventually won that bout, he tried it several times, and I see this when I roll as well. I'm trying the technique, and it's just sloppy. It doesn't work because it's sloppy.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And you know, but that's how you get good at it. You know what I mean? And I don't know whether have you got a submission in the gym yet, Greg? Have you managed to pull off a technique?
Not with anyone of consequence.
just one of your kids when they're gobbing off. No, but,
I play with the kids though. Sometimes I'll give them the submission just to show them what it feels like.
Yeah, but that's that's the carrot and egg of jiu-jitsu. Carrot and egg. That's the carrot and stick of jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? You learn this technique, and it's there. It's dangling there, and you're so close to it. And then one day you get a nibble of that carrot, and then you're hooked. You're like, oh my god, give me some more carrots. You know what I mean? But most of the time, that stick is just hitting you over the head because you're just getting submitted. But yeah, look, watching these guys roll, that the guy that does that technique, it's pretty solid. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that are not great about it, but at the end of the day, he does a solid technique. I mean, that's a pretty cool little thing that he does in itself. But I could recognize exactly what this guy is doing. And as you said, he is sticking to what he knows. It doesn't matter what his opponent's doing. He's doing what he wants to do. And as a white belt, that's what you should do, because you're still learning, you're still developing. You know what I mean? And to be honest, as a blue belt, you're kind of doing that as well. Your repertoire of what you're learning is just a lot wider. As a purple belt, what I need to start working on now is that I need to understand what my opponent is doing, and I need to have something in the memory bank that can react to what my opponent's doing now. All right. So instead of forcing my opponent to do something, I'm doing something against my opponent based off what he does first. So it's instead of sort of I do something and then he reacts, I need to react to what he's doing. And that just shows a wider knowledge and being able to apply what you know kind of in any space. And, you know, this guy, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing at the level that he's at. He knows the technique. It didn't work for him. So he's just going to keep trying it until it does, you know. And that armbar, I've gotten that armbar hundreds of times on people because it's what I know. I just do that 1, 2, 3. I can get that armbar straight away. It's very foundational, very solid technique. It doesn't go wrong that often because it's very tight. But as I said, but for me, now I know I can do it. I got to start upping my game a little bit. But exactly what you saw there, you know, Greg, that is can be something that you do 101 absolutely. And that side mount position is just there's an abundance of submissions that you can do there. There's just so many things that you can do there. And if you really think about it, right, if you think about an armbar from mount, okay, you need to go from sitting on your opponent's chest with an arm like that to laying down next to your opponent in a different angle with the arm in a different place, but essentially the same orientation to your body. So you need to go from there all the way to there and move your body in a way that manipulates the arm to stay with you. Whereas side mount, half of it's already done. You're already halfway in the position with the arm already in the air. All you need to do is lay down and you're there. So the more I think about it, Dane, you kind of inspired this thought. The more I think about it, that's the reason why it's so much easier to do it from there. That's the reason why I was so comfortable doing it there. So I think from you, Greg, so this is a whole new world that you can apply to your game as you're learning and developing these positions. And as I said, you know, be solid at guard, be solid at mount. I would say the third step is probably that side mount position as you continue to go on, and especially learn it before the kids do, and then you can just dominate. That'd be great.
Yeah. Just need to get a bit tighter with those legs.
Yeah, that's it.
The bookends as you put them.
That's it. Absolutely. And how you do that is just you drill, right? And that's the beauty of this, and that's the beauty of knee ride. It's stuff that you can do at home on a pillow. You can just practice going to that position. The transitioning from that mount and then just turning your hips and getting that one foot up to that side mount and then going backwards and forwards. That takes a lot of time and a lot of pivoting and a lot of practice. And that's something you can do at home. Not like the sexy stuff that, you know, Trav and everyone's doing right now with the legs and this and that and spins and that stuff. You need a partner, and you need a gym, and you need a lot of space. This stuff, these basics, you can practice at home for sure. Yeah. All right. So that's pretty much it. I just kind of wanted to just pick your brains and kind of get you guys opinions and feedback on it. And that was really, really fun. And as I said, I get just as much, if not more, out of this than you guys do. So I really appreciate you showing up and engaging in the conversation and being a part of it. Any final points, any questions, or any things that you guys want to raise whilst you have the floor?
Yeah, I appreciate the time that you and Tristan and everyone else puts into these things. Rich, that's really good and super appreciated from my point of view. It gives me a chance to think about things, even if I can't spend a lot of time practicing without the gym and everything. Just a quick one though. Obviously, we're looking at side mount from the aggressor point of view, if you want to put it that way. What do you do if you're the one on the bottom?
Awesome question. So the vast majority, so if you go into, first thing I learned is if you go into YouTube and you want to find out about side mount, you have to search side mount separately to technical mount, separately to modified mount. They're going to come up as different things each time. So search for the whole repertoire. Once you do that, the first thing that you'll notice is there are vastly more videos on how to escape the side mount, technical mount, modified mount than there are on how to maintain it and how to submit to it. So without going into the detail, there's so much more literature, if you will, on how to escape it than there is how to use it. So the answer is out there. How I escape the side mount, first thing I'm doing is trying to pop the foot that comes across your hip. I'm trying to pop that in between my legs. That's the first thing I'm trying to do. I'm trying to push that foot in between my leg, get a quarter guard, and then I'm trying to turn back to face my opponent and push that leg as far down as I can to turn a quarter guard into a half guard. And then I'm looking for that underhook, which is how you start escaping the half guard. So, but that's the first thing. I'm literally both my hands down on that foot and just trying to push that foot down and then lock that between my leg. Because if I can get that, if I can get that foot between my leg, then that they can't spin to an armbar. They can't spin to any technique. That being said, if you have someone that's doing it tight, you can't push that foot down. You're in trouble. So you got options for escaping out the top. So pushing that leg away and hip escaping up. You also have options of going underneath that leg and trying to pop out the back. So going down towards the legs as well. So there's many different ways of how to get out of it. But my first one is attacking that foot. I don't know if that's one. I didn't watch a video on how to escape the side mount. That's just something that I just naturally do, is because I'm very comfortable. How do I escape mount? I like to go quarter guard, half guard, and then start escaping from half guard. But yeah, check it out. There's plenty of stuff out there how to get out of it. Great question.
Thanks.
And this
Anything
was
else? Go for it, Dave.
Sorry. You go, Greg. Yeah, I think this was like a really good reminder that there are a range of submissions from side mount. So I need to kind of familiarize myself with those. I mean, I like I said, when I end up in side mount, I go for a sort of a half Nelson and don't even think that there is, you know, an opportunity to take the back or you know, throw the leg over the head and go into an armbar or whatever. So that was that's been sort of a good reminder. I think the other thing was this kind of walkthrough has been a kind of a good to kind of break what I thought there was a bit of a sort of a stigma around kind of going to this from mount. I mean, I like again that mindset that I spoke about before, where you're like, I'm in mount. You know, I've been taught that mount is where you want to be. That's kind of the gold standard, or that's kind of the most sort of offensive or dominant position to be in. And perhaps sometimes I sort of felt like if I go into side mount, it's a bit of a cop out. Like, what, you know, I can't submit this person from what I'm sort of being taught is the most sort of dominant position. So I need to kind of transition to this this side mount kind of position. Like I guess it's always sort of felt like it was a bit of a kind of a like a cop out. But I don't think that's the right way to think about it. I mean, it sounds like there's plenty of really good options from that, side mount as well. So
yeah, no, mate, the amount of times I've gotten, so my game has changed a lot over the years, but I used to absolutely ignore mount, like just not even go for it. You know what I mean? And the vast majority of my attacks would be side control. Side control would be where all my attacks come from. And even so much so, and I still do it now. If I'm rolling against let's say I'm rolling against Tristan, and if I happen to get mount, the first thing I'm trying to do is get out of mount. And I'm like, okay, I need to get back to side control because I haven't got a good enough mount attack to get Tristan or Trav or anyone like that. It just, and no, not even Tristan, Trav. The vast majority of people, I'm not going to get a submission from mount. So that's why my technique to get from mount to side control, a lot of people work for how to get from side control to mount. I've worked more on my technique for how to get off mount because I'm so bad at the submissions from there. So I completely get what you're saying. And it's very strange. And, a few years ago, I was in the exact same conundrum as you. I was like, man, this mount position's great, but I can't do anything from it. So I just kind of just ignored it. But for me,
that's how I feel like a lot of the time, when you're particularly with the more experienced guys, that you sort of end up in mount, and you're searching for underhooks, or you're trying to sort of do a fake an Ezekiel or something.
Yeah,
so
to open something up.
I'll kind of put the elbows away from the to kind of defend their neck, and they're kind of onto you, and they're not kind of giving you anything. You think, well,
what am I doing?
I've kind of run out of ideas from here, so it's good to know that there's this other sort of position to go do that could have a lot of options from there.
Well, and the other one is knee ride. Right. And that came up in the knee ride session that we did as well. Knee ride, just as putting him in a position where, in one of the videos that we did for knee ride, he uses knee ride because his opponent thinks he's won. So you're in that mount position, you're nice and tight. You give a knee ride, your opponent's like, oh, here's an opening. And they start giving you a hook or throwing an arm up or turning their hips or something like that. So that's certainly something I do as well. And in fact, from the mount a lot, I'll be in the mount, I'm trying to get it. They're super tight. I'm getting nothing. I just throw a knee ride and then they're like, okay, I'm going to start escaping knee ride now. And they give an arm and then you can start playing around. So yeah, definitely. Everything you were saying, I relate with so much. And this is why I like Trav's sort of homework that he issued everyone. If you start to map out the techniques, the foundational positions, mount guard, side mount, side guard, whatever, all that sorts of stuff. And then you start mind mapping out the submissions you do from it, you'll start to find holes in your game very quickly. And then what are the holes in your games? Well, that's, you do a session, you research a session like this, you practice on a dummy at home, that you're filling that hole. All you need to do is practice it in the gym, and then you've rounded your game out a little bit more. That's certainly what I have been doing based off these videos. And I did it last year during lockdown. In fact, Mike said to me years ago, he's just like, you are terrible at choking. He said, I will not give you a purple belt unless you can start choking people. And I was just like, oh, he's right. I never choke anybody. And that's when I started just going, okay, I'm never going to submit anyone for the next year unless it's a choke. And I did exactly that. And last year I was like, I didn't even know basic chokes. And I said this, the baseball bat choke. My kids are playing Fortnite. I got my dummy out that wears my gi, and I'm just there, just practicing baseball choke with left, baseball choke with right, and just backwards and forwards. And now I've got a pretty good baseball choke just from practicing on the dummy. So, it's how much do you want to commit to better your game. But that kind of commitment is not sexy. It's boring. It's drilling. But I think that's what's going to make you better at jiu-jitsu, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, it's not like it's sort of shortage of time these days. Like, three-day weekend every weekend. There's plenty of time to get on the dummy, and
that's it. I mean, I work out, and I'm not good enough to do this. I work out a lot at home. There's nothing that I could say that I could just, part of the cool down, just jump on the dummy and just practice a choke for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? That's all it would take, just instead of doing one large session, you're just doing lots of tiny sessions. I think neurologically they add up a lot more for you to remember a technique down the line. So absolutely. If you really want to do it, you will find the time. And I'm not saying like find the time to run 5 times a week, just 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, get a dummy, do what Tegan does and just get a big teddy bear and just put a gi on it and practice on that. It's all about just getting that muscle memory, isn't it? So no, this is inspiring. I'm going to work out tomorrow morning. I might get the dummy there ready to go and have a bit of a 5-minute play. Imagine my wife coming out like 6 a.m. What are you doing? Oh, that'll be pretty funny.
I think those prompts to get the person to roll onto their side, like I mean beyond the Kimura, I hadn't sort of thought of those, like kind of the reach behind the head and you kind of get the kind of the grab an arm, or you know, lifting up the
lifting that arm up. Yeah, that's a new
like
one.
grabbing a bit of gi and kind of lifting up from behind the tricep. Like I hadn't sort of considered those things, so wouldn't mind trying a few sort of entries into like grabbing a dummy and trying those kind of entries into or transitions from mount into side mount using those other mechanisms.
Yeah, for sure. All right, fellas, awesome session. Hey, thanks very much, and thanks for those that watch this later on. if you've got any questions, send it in the chat, and let's talk more about this. See you next week. Have a great one, guys.
Cool. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Dave.
See you, Greg.
See ya.